next performer, our first performer, is Ellaree Yeagley, y'all. She is a writer, illustrator. This is what she wrote about herself, by the way. She's a writer, illustrator, and unrepentant drawbridge enthusiast. She's the hawk of the walk, baby, the Wolf of Maul Street, a medieval Kneival, if you will. And you should. So please welcome to the stage Ellaree Yeagley and the trailer for Ladyhawke.
Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. In a 2013 interview with The Telegraph, Michelle Pfeiffer admitted that she was briefly involved with a cult back in the early 80s. I love the idea of tiny, ethereal Michelle gargling ram's blood, branding initiates, banging a gong, supervising subterranean orgies, but alas, it wasn't that kind of a cult. Instead, Michelle fell in with some Age of Aquarius singing, crystal deodorant using Los Angeles spiritualists who practice breatharianism. If you're unfamiliar, breatharians are real and their cult is lame. The basic idea is that being out in the sun can fulfill all of your body's nutritional requirements if you're spiritually open to receiving them. Not being one to poo-poo pseudoscience, I attempted to photosynthesize myself before breakfast this morning by standing out in the yard with my mouth open for close to 3 minutes. A half hour later, my spirit vitamins, or whatever, had worn off, so I caved and ate some instant oatmeal. Breatharian fail. While it's disappointing that the woman who so righteously nailed the role of Selena Kyle in Batman Returns couldn't find an edgier cult to escape from, her brief belief in the transformative powers of sunlight reminded me of her role in the 1985 medieval fantasy film Ladyhawke. In it, a jealous bishop's curse transforms her into a hawk, but only during the daylight hours. Her beau, played by a large and leather-clad Rutger Hauer, anamorphs into a wolf at night, thus ensuring that the lovers are never human at the same moment, and consequently, that his P can never, ever meet her V. The film also showcases Matthew Broderick in a burlap hippie hoodie, having weird, overly expository, modern jargony, non sequitur conversations with God. Not quite Ferris Buellering through the fourth wall, but close enough. Also unexpected is the film's aggressively anachronistic prog rock score, produced by one of the guys from the Alan Parsons Project. A Knight's Tale attempted something similar in 2001 by pairing a classic rock soundtrack with a medieval setting. However, in 2001, classic rock was ripe for revival, whereas Ladyhawke's drum machines and fuzzy synth were an ill-advised attempt at postmodernism before the ashes of disco had fully settled. The end result is a 14th century supernatural tragicomedy brimming with distracting porn music. I say this as if I believe that bubonic plague-era pornography is wholly without artistic merit, which is, of course, untrue. Have you seen my browser history? Despite these few bizarre style choices, this is not a self-aware fantasy film like A Knight's Tale or Shrek or The Princess Bride. No, Ladyhawke means some sword and sorcery business. Just as a well-placed huzzah indicates solidarity to a Renaissance festival devotee, the superfluous E at the end of Ladyhawke is more or less an open invitation to its key demographics. Me, drawbridge enthusiasts, and people who are willing to, save up for a good quality cloak. But back to Michelle for a moment. While we can all agree that sun-turning Michelle Pfeiffer into Bird of Prey is more badass than sun-filling Michelle Pfeiffer with cosmic hummus, I cannot fault her for being seduced by the breatharians. People believe ridiculous shit, and not just when they're young. Beyond the fantasy that other people push upon us, the tooth fairy, the boogeyman, breatharianism, we cannot help but insert ourselves into the center of our own utterly unbelievable mythologies. For example, at 13, I was convinced that the X-Men existed in a parallel dimension and would come for me once my latent mutant powers activated. I had a duffel bag packed and was totally unsentimental about ditching my family forever in order to train in the danger room. It was a sad day indeed when I finally tucked my survival guide to the mansion into a protective cover and shoved it under my bed for good. But the thing is, I haven't given up entirely. Part of me still clings desperately to the hope that alternate dimension Ellaree is still barely legal, in fighting shape, and hasn't been desocialized from too many food service and call center gigs. Everlasting love based solely on physical attraction is a culturally ingrained mythology. Every bit as ridiculous as my familiarity with Cerebro's emergency override codes. This idea has been reinforced in books and films forever without having any basis in reality, but rarely so egregiously as in the fantasy genre. It seems as though there's always a quest to embark on, a monster to slay, or a trial to endure in order for the story's hero to prove unequivocally that he is a guy who deserves to have sex with the most beautiful woman in all the land. And that's just when his MO is chivalry. Lamentations of the women, indeed, Conan. As much as I genuinely love Ladyhawke, it fits the trope. And it is a testament to Pfeiffer's tremendous talent that she manages to inject a sense of intelligence and poise into a character with fewer than half of the lines of her male co-stars. But let's be clear, her physical perfection is why she got hired. It's what motivates every male character in the film. It is her character. That the three-dimensional woman behind this character would feel drawn to an ideology that valorizes self-starvation seems more than coincidence. Allow me to remind the audience that the curse exists only because an evil bishop popped one too many unrequited boners for her and simply cannot handle it anymore. Therefore, no one else's boner shall be popped in her vicinity either. Hence, deal with the devil, poof, bird woman. His reaction does seem sort of alarmist, but who could blame him? Everyone in this world who's not a main character or a horse is absolutely gross looking, thus reinforcing another age-old trope. Beauty in itself is deserving. Beauty belongs with beauty. These are powerful messages, and they continue to affect me, affect everyone, even when we see them for what they are. I still turn to jelly the moment her face first emerges from the shadows, unadorned and radiant in the moonlight. Those eyes so blue, her hair so feathered. I envy her. The lovers break the curse, of course. The film ends with their triumphant sun-kissed embrace, conveniently denying us an opportunity to witness the psychological aftermath of their ordeal. Let us not forget that 2 years have passed with each of them living a feral half-life. And friends, in an era where leech-based medical care and blithely drinking out of lead-glazed mugs seem totally reasonable, 2 years might as well be 20. If they were really a couple of young people who had just survived the profane machinations of a fallen holy man, they'd have to deal with each other's lingering PTSD for the rest of their lives. He'd have to accept her compulsion to pick out the jewels in his family's sword and feather their castle with rodent carcasses. She'd need to be chill when he chases the neighboring castle's cat or chews through the crotches of whatever weird shit women wore for underwear back then. The ever after portion of Happily Ever After isn't as crucial to our mythology as the process of getting there. If Professor X had sent the blue team to retrieve me via the Siege Perilous, because that is how it was going to go down, it would have only been exciting for a short while before I missed both my cat and not being in constant mortal danger. I wasn't interested in projecting forward to how lousy life in spandex would be, just as it's probably safe to assume that Michelle Pfeiffer never anticipated having to explain why she's still ingesting solids to a British journalist. Turns out that was also a fantasy, but one touted as nonfiction to a person who desperately wanted to believe. And it happens to the best of us. Thank you.
Falcor on my squad, my dog, and it's even smelling good by the stench bog. I saw a Red Bull, but didn't bug out. He was getting freaky with a unicorn, no doubt. Put on my boots and jacket, heading for the door. Bought a dime bag from my little homie Willow. I gotta go, cause I'm always going non-stop. I'm working for a witch, so she can make the spells drop. Had to stop for a bright light, dark crystal glowing, not a Skeksis in sight. And everything is alright. I got a text from a hawk, and she's a lady all night. Called up the goblins, and I'm asking y'all, which trick is Jareth taking to the ball? Get me on the dance floor, I'm trouble. Last week went to the ball, car put inside a bubble. Like a beast master under his sword and sorcery game. I can't believe today was a good day.